Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on not really this Flash Season 8 specifically, but just the Flash as a whole. But in regards to the Flash Season 8, we do have that coming our way in a few months from now, starting in the middle of November, roughly, which of course will be interesting to see how that plays out. But one of the bigger things that happened at the end of Season 7, or towards the end of Season 7 at the very least, was the introduction of Bart Allen to the show as Impulse, as well as the reintroduction of Nora West Allen as XS. This, of course, being a reimagined version of the character to the one that we saw arrive and then die later on in Season 5 of The Flash. Now, due to the bringing in of these characters, many people were wondering whether this was the CW and just the world of the Arrowverse, slightly opening the door to a potential spin-off or spinning off of these characters into their own show. And we have had both Jordan Fisher, who plays Bart, and Jessica Parker Kennedy, who played Nora, chucking out teasers for the future, with both saying that they would be down to spin these characters off into their own project, with the former bringing that up on his own accord, just saying, hey, I'd like to do it.
If you could go back and revisit one of your previous characters for a new project, who would you pick?
Frankly, Impulse would be really. I'm curious as to what kind of life Impulse could have outside of the Flash. The DC world is a very, very big world, so I'm just curious.
Now, this is a video and discussion I held off towards the end of Season 7 when the actors talked about this, as I wanted to see how Season 7 ended and everything like that. But now is the time to talk about it. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know your various opinions on all this in the comment section down below, especially some stuff towards the end, because that's probably the portion of the video where you can pretty much add whatever you want in regards to what you think this could be and how it could play out and everything like that. So yeah, let me know all your opinions in the comment section down below. Now, one of the bigger concerns or arguments, I guess you could say, that would come up with the discussion of this potential spin-off with Impulse and XS from The Flash is, well, it's not a positive thing, I guess, in regards to support, and that's the failed spin-off from Arrow set in the future, which would most likely be the setting for this Flash spin-off as well, with that Arrow spin-off, of course, being Green Arrow and the Canaries. Now, the similarities are there. You can't avoid them. As I said, future setting is most likely what's going to be there with the Flash spin-off if it happens. Main character or characters are children of the main characters from the show they are spinning off from. The same abilities or powers as the previous show's main character. Those similarities do make you go, uh-oh, and think that the fate of the shows will be similar as well. That, of course, being dead or non-existent. But the big difference is that with Green Arrow and the Canaries, Mia Queen or Smoke, whichever way you want to call her, was a character not from the comics that was literally brought into Arrow and created just to potentially be a spin-off character. Not to be a character on the show, not to add to the story of the show, but to potentially just be a spin-off character. That's the whole reason she was created. Nora, on the other hand, is an original character for the show. She was brought in to serve the story of the show, the opposite of Mia. While Bart is, of course, a character from the comics. I'm pretty sure we all know who Impulse is. And of course, once again, he was brought into the show to serve the story. So these Flash characters already have an upper hand over their Arrow counterpart. But speaking of story as well as characters and all of that, what could this potential spin-off look like? Like, what and who would it be made up of? So the first thing is that it would have to take place in the future, and that's if it wants to take place in Central City, whether that be 2049, just before 2049, or beyond 2049. It can't be set in the present day, whenever that would be, when it hypothetically starts, whether it's 2023 or 2026, whatever it might be, and be in Central City. It can't be in the present day and be in Central City. Just due to the simple fact that Barry, or, the Flash, would still be active. We are led to believe that Barry continues being active as the Flash for a while from now. Obviously, we probably won't see that in the show. But yeah, we're led to believe he continues for a while after that. Obviously, it could be set in another city in the present day, whether it's Keystone, whether it's Rio de Janeiro, I'm not too sure, somewhere like that. It could be set in another city. But even then, the question of Barry as well as Iris showing up from time to time in the show would come up. And I can't see that happening outside of maybe the first episode. Like, if they set it in the present day, they could have Grant Gustin and Candice Patton play Barry and Iris, and that's it. And then that's all we see of them outside of maybe just them being referenced and maybe some photos that they do quickly at the beginning. Something like that. And though the show being set in the future would bring up the same question, like of, Barry and Iris showing up, that would roughly be 30 years in the future, if not more. And I think it's understandable that they would recast the roles of Barry and Iris from that point in time to be a bit more, realistic looking. And even then, you wouldn't think they would show up too much anyway, or at least they would write the story where Barry and Iris aren't showing up every 5 minutes saying, hey, how's it going? You would hope that Barry and Iris would be enjoying retirement, hopefully, at that point in time. Maybe they're on a cruise. Maybe they're on a 4-year cruise when this when this show starts, something like that. And that's just so the focus can just be on Bart and Nora in regards to the species side of things. And there isn't just this constant questioning of like, where's Barry and Iris? Or Barry and Iris just constantly show up and maybe intervene with things, you know? But obviously that's just the main stuff. That's just the main general premise of the show. It's just pretty much what we have on The Flash, but it's set in the future with Bart and Nora doing their thing. But in regards to the world of the show, I thought I would actually label out some side characters that I think would potentially be on the show if I'm putting my mind into the head into the mind, whatever it is. If I'm putting myself into the mind of someone that would be making this show, I could see this happening. And I think this would actually lay out well. And this is probably where you can add some stuff in the comment section down below as well, in regards to people or, you know, groups you think would fit into the show throughout its run, whether it's the, you know, to be like a, you know, a main character alongside Bart and Nora, or someone that shows up from time to time. So yeah, let me know all your potential additions and suggestions in the comments. So the first one is side characters, all, you know, like people that would work alongside Bart and Nora in this crime fighting stuff in Central City. Now, I've only listed 2 people, and that's just because these are the only 2 people which I was thinking, okay, they would work on the show, and also they've sort of been referenced to know Bart and Nora, or one of them's been referenced to know Bart and Nora and sort of interact with them in the future. And I thought, well, where they are currently on the Flash in Central City, would they be there in the future as well, or potentially work there? And I thought, yeah. And some people might agree with me, some people might not. That's fine. We all have opinions. That's the beauty of it all. And I actually put Chester P. Runk as one of the side characters and just the person in Star Labs, or a person that works with Bart and Nora. Maybe Star Labs doesn't exist anymore in the future. Well, actually it does. We know it does. But maybe they don't work out of there. We don't know. That's obviously for the show if it potentially happens to work out. But I did put Chester P. Runk there. I think he would, you know, work fairly well. Whether it's a recast of the actor once again, 30 years in the future, whether they want to change that up. But Chester's still like, what, he'd be in like his 50s or something like that, I think, at that point in time. And then there could be another side character that's maybe younger that works alongside Chester. Maybe it's Chester's, like, you know, protege, if you want to call it, or something like that. They could do that. But I've just listed Chester because I'd be making up a character. I'd be calling them Philippa Dos Martos. I don't know, something like that. And then the other one is a completely new character that we have not seen in the Arrowverse as of yet, but is a big thing in the comics and connected to Impulse, which a lot of people were disappointed that they didn't include this person in season 7 or connect him with Bart, you know, from, you know, what Bart's experienced already. And that's Max Mercury. So he's a mentor. We're not a mentor. He is the mentor for Impulse in the comics. And I think it'd be fairly cool if he just came into the show shortly after it starts. Maybe play like a, you know, Harrison Wells type situation, be that mentor for Bart. Because Max is meant to be seen as like one of the smartest, if not the smartest, you know, most prolific speedsters out there. And we haven't seen him in the Arrowverse yet. So I think if they used him in this spin-off, it'd be fairly cool. I don't know who they would cast in the role. They could do sort of like a throwback casting and a nostalgic casting for that. It could be someone completely new. But I think Max Mercury in a show like this would be pretty cool to see. Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. But those are the only side characters to put down because they're the only ones I could legitimately think of that they would work on this show potentially. There is one more that sort of ties into a villain, but I don't know if they would be necessarily like a side character for the general outline of the show, if that makes sense. Like being a season 1, 2, 3, whatever it might be. They might only be in like a 1 season thing, so I didn't include them in the side characters. But yeah, next up, villains. Now, villains, this list is much longer, and it does include some old villains from the show, that like the Flash show, as well as some reimaginings, as well as new ones that we haven't seen yet. So the first one is the easy one. We have Impulse on the show, Bart Allen, Inertia. He's the clone of Bart Allen, Thaddeus Thorne. It's obvious. Like, you're going to use Inertia. Whether it's a big bad, whether it's a storyline throughout one of the seasons, Inertia. You're going to use Inertia. It's so clear. It's so obvious. You'd be an idiot not to use him. Next up is Razer. Now, Razer, I think, would just be like a villain of the week or like a recurring villain or something like that. And I put Razer in here because they're teased in the future scenes. I think it's in the Nora episode, the Godspeed episode from season 5. I think Razer is on one of the billboards. And it's like a villain that the Flash, I guess, versus in the future from the show. So why not use him on this? And say he breaks out like, I hated the Flash, I versed the Flash. So he goes after, well, he doesn't go after, maybe he causes more issues in Central City, and it's up to Bart and Nora to stop him this time rather than Barry. So Razor's a character that they could use. Yeah, I think he looked fairly cool on the show as well. Next up is actually a character that we're actually going to use in season 6 of The Flash, but he got scrapped. I don't know if it's meant to be a post-crisis change. Apparently it was, but they never end up using him. And that's Owen Mercer, who is Captain Boomerang's son. So he's the second iteration of Captain Boomerang, but they could just make him in the future now. And he's actually an interesting character because he sort of has a mixture of like a bit of super speed. It's like a type of super speed, I guess. So he'd be an interesting character and actually be very formidable against speedsters. So I think having Owen Mercer's Captain Boomerang would be pretty cool. Next up, I have Grodd. I mean, I'm sure Grodd can stick around and be more of a threat. If anything, he gets more powerful. Obviously, he's meant to be like not as villainous as before, but maybe something happens that makes him evil again. We can always do that. I mean, it's a comic book show. They change stuff up all the time. We can do it with Grodd. Next up is Trickster, so the younger version, and obviously by this point he'd be older, so he'd almost be like how old Mark Hamill's Trickster was when he showed up in The Flash. So I think that's an obvious one as well. Why not have the Trickster there as like a recurring villain in seasons, or wouldn't have him as a main threat, obviously, but yeah, I think it'd be cool to see him recur. Cronarch, now he was set up by Abracadabra and mentioned. He might happen on the Flash TV show, we don't know, but he's meant to be in the future. Maybe that'll be Bart and Nora's issue to deal with. But Cronarch was set up by Abracadabra, so they could come back to that. Mob Rule was mentioned in season 5, I think it is, as an enemy of the Flash in the future when they were saving that plane with Barry, Nora, and Wally. So maybe Mob Rule could be there in the future as well. Or, you know, they return and Bart and Nora have to deal with them as well. I think that could work. And the last one is Manfred Moda, who becomes like a version of Adam Smasher, different sort of, you know, periods of him as a character in the comics. But he's pretty much, to label it, crazy scientist. But his daughter, Valerie Perez, I think it's Valerie Perez, is in a relationship with Bart in the comics. And she's that character I was talking about who could be a side character, but not for like the whole show. So maybe she might just be like a season 1 or season 2 thing, or whatever season it would be where Manfred Moda would, you know, be a villain, if not, maybe not the big bad, but definitely a recurring villain, and there could be a storyline there. So yeah, Manfred Moda would be an interesting one, just because you can tie in that relationship that Bart would potentially have with his daughter, Valerie. So yeah, that could work. But finally, what is the likelihood of this? And the answer is pretty simple. It's low. Any type of spin-off show should be seen as a low chance of happening, and usually spin-offs are random and not set up too far in advance in regards to us, the audience. We won't know like 6 months in advance whether a spin-off show is being set up on a show. You don't read that. So though it would be cool to step into the future of the Arrowverse and the timeline and the speedster side of it in a consistent way, like, you know, you get weekly episodes of it, the chances of it happening should never be seen as too high. Like, you'd put it lower than 25, 20, 10%. Though I'm sure many would be down to see it. I would, especially seeing that Bart appeared to be received well by most. Nora is liked for the most part when she's written well, and the future is always interesting to explore. So the interest levels would be there. It just matter whether they can think they can make it work. I think I put a case out there where it could work for a couple of seasons, but the issue is when a show like The Flash has been on for 8, 9, maybe 10 seasons, who knows how long it's going to go, it cuts down characters you can use in storylines. Though those villains and characters I put there are ones that they haven't really dabbled into too much, if at all. So there's still some groundwork that can be made and, you know, bases to be touched, but it's not a ridiculously oversized amount, if that makes sense. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome. We could drop a like on it, show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on all of this. Do you have any more villain additions or side character additions that you'd like to see in this potential show? And yeah, let me know all that in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.